We are delighted to be joined again via Zoom. Eric Wallis, president of Henry Ford Hospital, West Bloomfield. Mr. Wallis, thank you very much for checking back in on the Megacast. Good to talk to you today.
Absolutely glad to be here, Dave.
So we're in a little bit better place today. Numbers are down, and I don't know if you heard, but we were just talking boating and golf. So, that is
Sure.
a step in the right direction. Still a very serious matter. How are things going at Henry Ford Hospital, West Bloomfield?
Well, I think just like you see across the rest of the state of Michigan, we start to see some of our numbers have trended down just a little bit, but I guess I would really emphasize that that doesn't mean that it has gone away. We are certainly each day seeing a few less cases, but unfortunately, the folks who are still making it into the hospital are still very, very sick. We're still seeing folks that winding up on ventilators for not just a day or two, but certainly up to weeks. And so we're still in the middle of this fight. We still see a large portion of our business today is completely COVID related. So although I know that the world is very interested and very rightly so, very interested in getting it back to normal as quickly as possible, we're certainly not quite there yet.
Well, there's a lot of issues that you just mentioned. Let's take each one of them very quickly, if you'd be so kind. First of all, our heart goes out to all of the folks that are working so hard and putting their lives on the line. But in addition to that, you guys have a business challenge in the hospitals. We've all seen the media reports. By losing your more profitable elective surgery, that has
Yep.
put you folks in financial dire straits, if you will. You want to talk about that a little bit, Eric?
Yeah, I wish I didn't have to talk about that, but I think it's part of our reality right now. As you mentioned, the way the healthcare economics in this country have been set up has been that generally our healthcare systems survive based on the surgeries and the elective procedures that we do, and the medical patients that we take care of generally don't cover our costs, and so that we are very much seeing that. I think across the Henry Ford health system, even in our most recent week. We're seeing about 50% less revenue this year compared to last. And so just like most folks, if you were looking at your own, personal bank account, if there's 50% less funds there to do the things, but your bills are staying the same, it's a tough place to be. So, unfortunately, we had to make some difficult decisions to furlough some team members across the Henry Ford health system. I think that one of the things I'm really proud about is kind of how our health system has managed that. We've done it in a way where we've kind of looked at the areas where the work is decreased, or folks who have been involved in those, surgical or elective places, and we allowed those folks to go out on furlough. We've set up some things to try to take care of those folks. We've allowed them to keep their health benefits intact. And we've across the system seen our senior leaders and executives, take anywhere from a 10 to 25% pay cut. And those funds aren't just going back to the bottom line of the organization. They're actually going back to funds to support our team members who aren't working during this time. So I'm really proud that that's the step that we've taken. And I think that I'll speak for most of our executives. We're happy to make that contribution to support our frontline folks.
Well, Eric, it's unfortunate because you guys are on the front line. I mean, I think of any group of people that has been heroic during this thing. It's our healthcare workers in the hospitals who have saved so many lives and put your own lives at risk. And the fact that you should be suffering this economic pain, if anything, you should be getting hazard pay right now, making more money and having more resources. Are you lobbying for? Do you expect? Are there discussions about government assistance to help our hospitals get through this crisis? Are you seeing that coming?
Yeah, we're fortunate that we've got a lot of good organizations, whether it's the Michigan Hospital Association, the American Hospital Association, some of our executive leaders in Wright Lassiter, Bob Burney, Adnan Makara, that are very tuned in and working with both the state and the federal governments to try to support us as best we can. I think that the reality of that, though, is that those funds are not even going to come close to covering the losses that we're incurring during this time. So it's certainly something that we're grateful for. We certainly know that anytime that the country takes on additional debt to support something, that there's a payback of that at some point. But it certainly helps. But I think that folks should know that we're not going to be made whole in any way, shape, or form by those payments and those resources that are coming to us.
So we've had the opportunity to talk to a lot of physicians, as you can well imagine, on this show since we chatted with you last, and many of those physicians outside of the hospital, working in their offices, have elective surgery and other procedures they've not been able to do. They would like to be able to, they're suffering economically as well. I'm sure some doctors in your system that, your system doesn't just represent hospitals, it represents doctors who are working in their offices around Metro Detroit and beyond. So are you collectively asking for, or will we see at some point, the ability to get back into the business of this elective surgery and yeah, I hate to use the expression stop the bleeding when I'm talking to somebody in your business, but can we do that?
Yeah, I think even today, what we're starting to do is look at we've had now 6 or 7 weeks of no elective or what we've called non-time or time-sensitive surgeries that have been delayed. So these are folks that have potentially cancer diagnoses or things that weren't going to immediately pose a threat to their life, but certainly are time sensitive. And I think over the last few weeks, we've started to look at how can we prioritize those things that have been put off. And, I think as we continue to work with the state and the governor, trying to figure out the appropriate timing of bringing those more time urgent procedures back. So that's work that's underway already. Certainly, we're looking forward to seeing kind of the next step, as the governor now has extended the stay-at-home order till May 15th, to see what the next phase of that is. And lots of conversations going on about when can we get back to even starting with these procedures that really are time sensitive, things that need to be done as soon as we can. So we're starting that process. I guess I would also throw out there that one of the big worries that we have right now is that a lot of folks are concerned about coming to hospitals or coming to medical facilities because of the COVID crisis. And unfortunately, what we're seeing is folks who really have medical emergencies. They're having heart attacks, they're having strokes, and they're not coming and seeking treatment. And so we really, really want to make sure we're stressing that the hospital is a safe environment. We've got a lot of great protections in place, and now we've got a lot of experience under our belt on how to keep our patients safe. And so when folks need care, they should come, and we're going to make sure that we keep them as safe as possible.
Well, you got a little PR job to do there, and I want to help because it doesn't make any sense. The reality is the people within the walls of your building know more than anybody. They've been dealing with COVID-19 extensively over the past several weeks and beyond, and they know more than anything. And you've got a great facility. People should not be afraid to come there if they need some other form of care. It would be terrible if you folks paid the price, taking care, being the major facility, taking care of people with COVID-19, and then people thought, well, that's a COVID-19 hospital. I can't go over there to get my, to get this or that done. So I'm with you. We will do everything we can. Anything I can do to help get that message out, I am with you 110%. Lower death rates, good news. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think, when we've seen this and as the testing has ramped up in the community, we certainly are seeing more and more folks that, maybe not having symptoms that were COVID positive, and that's a great thing that we're seeing those rates go up. But, the challenge, I think, with this really has been and continues to be that there's not always a lot of rhyme or reason to why one person gets COVID and has no symptoms or relatively mild symptoms, and the next person gets it and it's a life-threatening illness. So again, I think the message really is if you're not feeling well, if you're not your normal self, certainly to have a conversation with your healthcare provider. One of the great things that we have seen throughout this event is that we have really transitioned to being able to do virtual or video visits with patients and their providers, and we've seen huge ramp ups in those numbers, and so it's kind of a new and very convenient way for folks to get care, and so we want to really encourage folks to take advantage of some of those modes. But if you're not feeling well, don't hesitate to reach out or to come by the emergency department, or we're here to take care of folks so that we're not getting to that far end where we're taking care of folks who are going to be in an end of life situation.
Well, Eric, can I tell our listeners a story just in one situation like that? So I get a phone call from a very good friend of mine who has been at home with his wife and his two daughters that are home from Michigan State. And they followed all the rules. They've been absolutely incredible. They've not been traveling out. They've been doing their thing. Only one person in the household goes to the store to get the groceries. These guys are great. They've done everything plus. But one of my friend's daughters had an escalated fever up to 101. So called the hospital and said, "Come on over." And this is Sunday morning. She went on over. She did not even have to wait in line. Got tested, got treated real well. Everything went great. I got to check in with them as soon as they get off the air today to see if the results are in. I'm sure they are by now. But I just want to tell you that you got this thing down over there, and they were they were so happy because regardless of what the result is, they're going to get through it. But, if you can't get in, you can't get the test, you get over there, you're not treated well, whatever, you could understand all that happening. None of that happened, just the opposite. So I just wanted to share that really good story of great customer service by your hospital.
No, I appreciate that very much. And I think we strive even during these times to make sure that, when folks come to us, we know it's not always in the best of circumstances. I had a mentor of mine that once upon a time said, we have the privilege of serving people on what may be the worst day of their life. And so we really try to keep that in mind. And whenever we can make things more pleasant or quicker, we try really hard to do that.
All right. Well, I'll get into medical stuff with more of the medical people, but thank you today for talking to us. And I assume you still don't want people just showing up on your doorstep. A phone call first. If you're in a situation like my friend, pick up the phone and make the call. Call your doctor, and then they'll take the next step with you. Is that correct? Good advice?
Absolutely. We certainly are still got some criteria in place to make sure that we're testing the right folks. As a healthcare system, we're starting to stand up other places where folks can go get tested. So our Bloomfield Township location that just opened up this last fall is starting to do some testing. We're using our center over here in Columbus to do some testing. And so reaching out and having conversation with your healthcare provider, we can direct you to the right place and get you through the process and get you on the road to recovery as quickly as possible.
All right, it sure was a lot more fun hanging out in your parking lot with balloons and sandwiches in the fall, but those days will come back.
We certainly will.
We will be back there. Eric, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
We're so happy to have you in the community, and I'll tell you what, it's really reassuring to know that right down the road is Henry Ford Hospital, West Bloomfield. Great job over there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Eric Wallis, president of Henry Ford Hospital, West Bloomfield, checking in with us via Zoom, Tyler. They're doing a great job. Heroes, every single one of them over there.